So Stu, you spent the last 2 years sort of travelling between Brisbane and the US. Now that you've fully moved into Brisbane, how's that been for you and the family?
It's been great. I mean, more than anything, happy not to be on Zooms at midnight in the States. So that's been nice. And just the energy around the facility and the office, just being here with everybody and seeing the excitement, all the hard work that everybody's put in over the last 2 to 3 years. Now to be here on the ground and actually to like really feel a part of it. Like I was joking with my wife the other day, like I'm so excited just to go to the office every day and just be around everybody.
And you've obviously been here for a few weeks now in your new role as a head coach. How's that experience been?
It's great. I mean, we're still undefeated, so that's nice. But yeah, just getting around the guys, getting on the court, starting to meet with the coaches, planning out what training camp and preseason is going to look like. Now that our roster is really starting to come together with some key pieces, we can get a little more detailed on that. And again, just the vibe we have around here is just really positive and energetic.
And you've got 2 very experienced assistants that know the club and are helping you. How are Vandy and DMAC sort of helping you find your feet?
Sure, no, those guys have been and will be instrumental, like in that transition. Vandy's been here almost as long as anybody in the club in a variety of roles. So there's, really nothing he hasn't experienced. And DMAC's a legend. So just being able to, tap into like he sees things different than almost anyone else because of his level of experience as a player. And Pat Ewing too is like an important part of, what we're doing from a player development, player service type role. And for me, having 3 former players on the coaching staff is something that, gives me great comfort.
Yeah, for sure. And the roster is building. Over the weekend, we announced a new signing.
Yes.
How excited are you?
Very excited. I mean, look, Jaylen's a baller, right? I mean, this guy's played in the league for 3 years. He's MVP, champion. It's another guy in our roster that has won championships in this league, which takes that count up to 5. So, that's something that's really important to me. He and I we had a connection from the very first phone call. And quite frankly, there's probably no position on the floor that a head coach needs to have a very strong relationship with than the point guard. And he and I talked about that. And, we need him to be an extension of us as a staff on the floor. And I think he's ready for that next step in his maturation as a player. Nobody's questioning the guy's talent and ability. But, I think as you continue to grow and develop as a player, it's like what areas can a guy like that continue to improve in? And he and I talked a lot about leadership, professionalism, accountability, really just taking the club, from the front and, being a pivotal driver of that.
And what's the players' reaction been to?
Very, very exciting. I mean, you're always excited when you bring in an import, but when it's somebody that's played in the league and they actually know and they've competed against, both Jaylen joked about it and Sam McDaniel joked about it, that they don't have to go up against each other anymore. So, just knowing that we're, and for the guys to see that ownership and Malcolm and everybody in the front office is stepping up to give us the type of players that we need to be competitive night in and night out, because the league is really challenging. So to be on a level playing field with, some of the other clubs now gives us great confidence that, we're going to be competitive night in and night out.
Yeah, and we've still got a few spots left. So how's the recruitment process going? I know we've got Mal and Haj and Jason over at Summer League. Do you want to talk us through that? Sure.
And they're evaluating with a wide lens, right now. We have 2 roster spots open. We could still have the ability to bring in an import. Could be 2 locals. We could wait till the season or during the season to bring in an import, which is a scenario that some teams look at because it's an ability to improve your team during the season, where there's very few avenues to actually do that. But they're all things that we're just talking to and, flushing out. Getting Jaylen in the fold now gives us clarity at that position, which now allows us to kind of take that wider lens approach and figure out, what we want to do with those last 2 spots.
And do you want to give us a little bit of commentary around Ty and how he's playing over in the States?
Seems like he's doing great. I think he's enjoying the experience. Summer league is, it can be challenging for some guys. The focus is always on the NBA players that are under contract from the NBA teams first and foremost, and then everyone else kind of, backs in. But I think it's just really good for his confidence and development. I mean, first going to Puerto Rico, now going into NBA Summer League, all this is just going to make him a better player when he comes back with us and more confident. And nobody's worked harder than Tyrell over the last couple of years. So for him to have that like personal reward and experience, I actually got to see him in Denver a couple months ago when he came through and met with the Nuggets prior, and we had a great chat, just kind of around, what's expected from him, and like I'm going to challenge him, to be more of a leader for this club. And I think everyone knows like Tyrell's a man, and he just, the more he leans into that, the better he's going to be on and off the court.
And what are you most excited about with NBL 26 kicking off?
Good question. I love competition. So, while I don't get to actually step on the floor with the guys, but just being there in that fight, knowing like how tough the league is, every team is well coached, well prepared, and if you can prove that you can win in this league, like that's something that like I'm really looking forward to. Just the competition every night, and that every game matters. And the Bullets feel like we're scratching the surface. The last couple of years, Malcolm and the entire staff have done a great job, like around the edges. Getting this organization to a point where we're sitting at the table with the type of players like a Jaylen Adams and even some of the other guys that we were talking to earlier on in the process. Now it's our job to like match that from a performance side on the floor. And but we need our fans too. Like we need them to come out and support us and understand what we're doing. And I know it's been quiet for some time on that front with the roster build, but that was all like strategically planned by us because we were targeting specific guys and still are that, sometimes decisions, it's a two-way street. Just because we want somebody, the other side's got to decide on that too. And there were other factors that were coming in that were extending those processes, which, can be challenging and frustrating at times. But I'm really proud of the organization for not being reactionary and aborting that plan and strategy, because you can fall into those traps. So for where we are right now, like just couldn't be happier and more excited, but knowing that, the real work starts in a couple weeks.